Once upon a time, there was a beautiful young girl called Snow White. She was as pretty as a summer's day. Snow White lived in a castle with her stepmother. Now, her stepmother was vain and her stepmother was unkind. Every morning, Snow White's stepmother would go to a mirror and say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would reply,
"'Tis you, my lady, who the fairest of them all."
Snow White's stepmother was unkind. Snow White's stepmother made her clean and mop and scrub the floors, and Snow White was very unhappy. One day, the stepmother went to the mirror and said,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
And the mirror replied,
"My lady, there is another who is fairest of them all, and her name is Snow White."
The stepmother flew into a wild rage and summoned 2 woodcutters. She said to the woodcutters, "Here, take this girl, take her into the forest and kill her. Kill her dead with your axes." One morning, the woodcutters took Snow White out to the forest. But the woodcutters took pity on Snow White and decided to let her go. And Snow White rushed away through the wood, running as fast as she could away from her evil stepmother. Snow White came upon a small cottage in the wood. The door was a little bit open. She pushed it, and in she went. And there she saw 7 funny little people, dwarves. And their names were Scruffy, Tubby, Curly, Snoozy, Lanky, and Dimples. Snow White lived very happily with the 7 dwarves in the cottage. She baked them lovely cakes and they had lovely picnics together. Back at the castle, Snow White's evil stepmother felt happy. And one morning, as usual, she went to the mirror.
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
And the mirror replied,
"My lady, there is another who is fairest of them all, and her name is Snow White."
And the evil stepmother flew into an even more furious rage. She believed that Snow White was dead, but the mirror was telling her that Snow White was alive. The next morning, she dressed herself as an old, wrinkled, mean-spirited woman with a black cloak. She set off to find Snow White. In a basket, she had some apples, one of which was poisoned. Snow White opened the door.
"Hello, would you like an apple?"
She took a bite and immediately fell into a deep swoon. The apple was poisoned. When the dwarves came back, they found Snow White lying as if dead on the floor of their cottage. They were so upset, and they cried and they wailed, and they believed her to be dead. lay her on the floor and lit candles all around her. 3 days later, a young, handsome prince was walking through the forest, and he came upon the cottage, and he found the 7 dwarves sobbing over Snow White's body. He had never seen a more beautiful maiden, and he bent down and kissed her very gently on the forehead. At once, Snow White's eyes began to flicker. She opened her eyes and came back to life. The handsome prince was so delighted to have found his wife, and the two were married. And they all lived happily ever after.
Again.